Tenang saja, ada OBH Kombi.
PH Kombi dengan sukus liquorize bekerja tuntas redakan batuk dan flu.
Kalahkan batuk dengan OBH Kombi.
So, what is cough syrup? Well, cough syrup is a medicinal liquid that is used to relieve symptoms of, well, coughing. It usually contains a bunch of active pharmaceutical ingredients, which we will talk about later in the video. They can be found in many different forms, such as liquids, capsules, and tablets. However, we will be talking about OBH Kombi in this video, which is in the liquid form. So anyways, let's get on with the video.
Before we talk about specifically how cough syrup is produced, let's firstly discuss how medicine in general is produced and what are the processes behind it. So to understand how medicine is produced, we need to understand what medicine is. And medicine is usually just a bunch of organic compounds which are mixed together in a medium which is easy for the human body to consume. The reason why we use organic compounds is that these are the substances which affect the inner workings of the human body best. So this means that a lot of processes in the manufacture of medicine involve things like organic synthesis. But these organic compounds have to be put in a method of delivery which is easy to consume and will deliver the active pharmaceutical ingredients to the target organs. This is what the majority of this video will focus on. We are going to focus on the formulation process. And this process is the process where we make active pharmaceutical ingredients into a medium which can easily be consumed by humans. There are a variety of delivery methods. For example, swallowing through pills and syrup, inhalers, cream, eye droplets, injection, anal, and even vaginal delivery. So now you know what the formulation process means. I'm not going to illustrate to you what the formulation process looks like in Indonesia. So the first thing that most companies do is decide on the active pharmaceutical ingredients that goes into their drug. But then they consider technology and facility availability. Recall again that in some countries like Indonesia, there are many technologies which are limited in supply or simply do not exist. For example, equipment to produce raw materials like starch with low levels of impurity in Indonesia is something that is very rare. So therefore, they need to decide on API where they have the technology to produce it or where they can find suppliers easily. The second thing they do is pick the delivery choice. Again, this depends on the patient and the organs which are being targeted. So there are certain ways of delivering the medicine that might be more effective. For example, for infants, anal delivery of medicine could be effective because parents would sometimes have to force medicine down children's throats, and that isn't really something that is healthy for the babies. The third thing that companies do is they add substances for solubility and absorption when they are creating the medicine. So a lot of stuff is added into medicine in order to make it more emulsified or in order to dissolve the API. Recall again that some organic compounds are not that soluble. So therefore, sometimes companies can add a little bit of ethanol as it is a good solvent for organic compounds. Sometimes they also add emulsifiers to encourage substances to combine. For example, oils and water. The fourth thing that companies do is decide on the dosage and make sure that dosage is constant throughout all servings of the medicine. This is important for the company to make sure that their medicine is known for constant efficacy. I'll give you an example of this. So you know how when you buy cough syrup, there's a reminder to shake the bottle before you pour. There's actually a reason for that, and it's quite interesting. So syrups have a certain viscosity to maintain. The reason for this is that not all active pharmaceutical ingredients are completely soluble in solvents like water. Most of them are actually suspensions. So this means when you store the syrup, those particles of API which did not dissolve will sink to the bottom. So think of sand being added to water. It is a suspension, and that sand will sink to the bottom if you rest it. This is why there are reminders to shake before use when you take cough syrup, so that the medicine spreads evenly throughout the liquid. This means that when the medicine is poured, the same amount of dosage is poured in a volume, give or take. If the medicine was not viscous, then the medicine would be stuck at the bottom when poured. Therefore, syrup is viscous to make sure that the API particles will take a longer time to sink to the bottom after it is shaken. So therefore, they will get the same amount of dosage, more or less. So therefore, companies add a lot of thickening agents into syrups when they produce this kind of medicine. The final thing companies consider when making medicine is stability and patient acceptance. So in essence, stability is just how long a medicine can remain efficacious after its production date. If you think about milk, which has been left out in a room for a while, it is likely to smell really bad. And the reason for that is because bacteria grows inside it. And it's the same for medicine. Bacteria can also grow inside medicine, so therefore companies have to add a lot of antimicrobial additives such as ethanol to make sure that bacteria doesn't grow in the medicine and spoil it. The final thing they take into account is patient acceptance. As we all know, medicine can taste and smell really bad. So therefore, a lot of companies choose to add coloring agents or they add additives or flavoring agents to make them taste better. This is why you have a lot of medicine which is flavored like cough syrup. Now that you know how medicine is generally formulated, I'll explain how medicine quality is maintained. Contrary to popular belief, quality is not maintained only through rigorous testing. In fact, at a lot of companies, they only make sure that the critical process parameters are met to ensure that the quality of the medicine is good. Each process in the manufacturer has a quote-unquote critical process parameter which affects a critical quality attribute. Examples of these critical process parameters include temperature, pH, cooling rate, and rotation speed of the mixer. So these CPPs will affect the attributes of the medicine. If these critical process parameters are not met, the critical quality attribute will be affected. These critical quality attributes are important to make sure that the medicine is actually efficacious. So these critical quality attributes are shape, size, potency, identity, and purity. If the critical process parameters are not met, for example, the mixing speed is not fast enough, then the critical quality attributes will be affected, and therefore the medicine will not be as effective. It is therefore very important that these critical process parameters are always met and kept constant so that medicine is safe and consistent to use.
Let's switch gears for a bit and talk about how we got to learn more about the pharmaceutical world and how we got to this point. Here.
Yes, sir. You never know if you don't ask, baby.
Very good. As part of our research to learn more about cough syrup and how it's made, with the help of some connections, we traveled all the way to Bandung to speak with Pak Ari, a representative from a leading pharmaceutical company, COMBIPHAR. Okay, but first, let's have a brief rundown of our trip. So me, Adrian, and Anderson went via train, while the rest went with car. We arrived, ate food, played Animal Geyser, then Russell and Alden played golf for a bit.
Alden better than you, Andy.
And we met up in the factory. And also, Rico was late to the meeting.
Bruh.
And in the meeting, we learned so much about the processes of cough syrup. And he was even kind enough to let us into the factory, which was a really fun experience as it was the first time we have ever put on a hazmat suit and went in an airlock. Obviously, we were not allowed to film inside the factory, but they were kind enough to let us take a selfie in the factory. We give big thanks again to Pak Ari and COMBIPHAR for letting us have the experience and knowledge to make the video.
Hello everyone, my name is Alden and today I'm going to talk about the regulation of the pharmaceutical industry. The regulatory process covers every step in the manufacturing of medicine, from making sure that the raw materials such as starch are free from impurities. So I'm going to break down the safety standards to 3 sections: facility, staff, and an inspection done by BPOM regularly. For the facilities, any metal equipment has to use the industry standard stainless steel 306L. This metal, compared to other variants of stainless steel, is better for high temperature applications with a lower carbon content than most stainless steel. It has better corrosion resistance, meaning its welds won't decay. Another example The paint used in the factory is special. They use industry-grade epoxy paint, which is a tough, durable paint, unlike cheaper household paints which might peel off and release particles into the air. Also interesting is that even the number of particles within a certain room are limited. This is measured using a photo detector, which uses light to measure the number of particles in a unit volume of air. This shows just how intricate the pharma industry is in ensuring that the medicine gets to us safely. As for staff are fully trained in accordance with ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, and BPOM standards to ensure that they are qualified and capable of handling the equipment. As for the inspection regularly done by BPOM, random sampling is going to be done on the factory equipment and manufacturing processes. The staff and personnel have to prove to the inspector that they meet all the regulations and standard operating procedures. If they do not meet the standards, there could be a heavy fine or the manufacturing could be stopped, which would lead to a huge loss for the company.
Okay, let's talk about the business side of things. We will cover profits, COMBIPHAR's research and development process, and lastly, of course, job opportunities. At COMBIPHAR, around 150 bottles of COMBIPHAR Combi are produced per minute. Each bottle, the 100 milliliter bottle, is priced at 21,000 rupiah. That's more than 3 million rupiah of revenue generated every minute. And since the factory operates for 12 hours a day, if you do the maths, it roughly equates to 2 billion worth of revenue generated every day. The plant also manufactures other products such as zinc tablets and vitamins, so 2 billion may only be like a small portion of what they actually make. Although profitable, the pharma industry is extremely competitive and it has high barriers of entry. Time is of the essence. According to the manager we interviewed, COMBIPHAR uses hundreds of millions of rupiah for every hour the machine that packages their products is functional. Lead time, distribution, and other external costs are also things they try to take into account and minimize. How does COMBIPHAR conduct its R&D? First, they research the market. What is it that is high demand right now? They try to see if there's something the market is in desperate need of, and they will see if the market they're trying to enter is already saturated. And if they do decide to enter, are they able to obtain a significant share of the market? If not, then it is likely that they won't proceed. As for marketing, they use Google search engine analytics, and they also try to research new products that are useful and not available in the market yet, but beneficial. They want to have that first mover advantage. Secondly, they conduct research on their APIs. APIs stands for active pharmaceutical ingredients. They will see if the ingredients can be, let's say, be used in a more cost-effective way, sort of things like that. Thirdly, they will structure their manufacturing process in such a way that it is as cheap as possible. COMBIPHAR tries to utilize its resources and design an efficient system. For example, in the factory, the compound was segregated into different areas and buildings, each with their own specific purposes. There were systems in place to make sure that everything runs smoothly and as efficiently as possible. Last but not least, job opportunities.
Let's say that Adrian just graduated high school, so he's picking a major for university. He loves chemistry but doesn't know what to take, so he consults Google. Seeing that chemical engineering makes the most money, Adrian gladly chose it. After 4 years, Adrian goes back to Indonesia so that he can find a job and start his own family. But after applying to 20 jobs as a chemical engineer, Adrian couldn't believe his eyes. He got rejected from every single job. What? The reason for this is not because Adrian isn't a good chemical engineer, but the industry in Indonesia doesn't really have a need for chemical engineers. The reason for that is because Indonesia's pharmacy does not need chemical engineers. Indonesia does not specialize in inventing new chemical processes or designing chemical processes. They rely on manufacturing from raw goods which are imported from foreign countries. So the opportunities as a chemical engineer actually differs from places to places. At the same time, Anderson also graduated from school. Anderson was wiser than Adrian. He decided to consult his teachers at school about his major, especially his chemistry teacher. His teacher told him that if he didn't want to be broke in Indonesia, he only had two choices, pharmacy or chemistry. After getting his degree,
Anderson applied to multiple jobs in Indonesia, and he got hired at one of the best pharmacy companies in Indonesia, COMBIPHAR. As he read his acceptance email, he realized that what his teacher said was true. In Indonesia, there are more pharmacists and chemists working in chemistry because those people are needed more in formulating medicine from raw materials instead of designing chemical processes. Anderson quickly rose up the ranks in COMBIPHAR and went up to become a very successful chemist.
So to wrap things up, if you're ever considering to enter the pharmaceutical industry, consider the things I've said. R&D, marketing, costs, and keep in mind that entering this industry is actually hard and you'll face a lot of competition. But if you're successful, you should be able to make lots of money, like COMBIPHAR, for example. So good luck, is all I can say.
And that's the end of our video. But of course, all videos aren't complete without a case study. And let's look at one right now.
No, it's got away. It's got away.
Unacceptable!
Yo, use this.
What did you give me just now? And if you want to learn more, I even made a video on it.
Kau akan batuk dengan OBH Kombi.
Go.